Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up? Welcome back. Dr. Jaws here, and tonight we are covering the Bignose Shark, Carcharhinus altimus. And it's this stream is going to go in a direction I wasn't expecting for this species, wherein I thought there was going to be a lot of footage on this shark. It is a shallow water coastal species that's often confused with sandbar sharks. So I thought we'd have a lot more material on it. And we have a lot of research on this species, but we don't really have a lot of encounters with it, not a lot of filmable material with it. So I think it's going to be kind of more of a classic research-oriented episode, which I'm excited about because this species has popped up in research for a very long time. I think it was described in the early 20th century, I want to say. So, and again, it's confused a lot with the sandbar shark, but as its own species, there's not a lot publicly known about bignose sharks. I'm sure most people don't know what a bignose shark is, and part of it is because it looks so similar to other kinds of requiem sharks, other kinds of Carcharhinus species. So, but I'm excited to learn more about it and see what makes it distinct. So, I think what we'll do starting now is we'll take a look at our good friend Florida Museum of Natural History and see what we can learn about the Bignose Shark. So here we go. Carcharhinus altimus, Bignose Shark. This plain gray shark has a broad, bluntly pointed snout with prominent nostril flaps, hence its name. It mostly lives offshore, eating bony fish and other lizardbranchs, which are smaller sharks and rays, from near the sea floor. Because of its deep water habitat, is considered a low-risk shark to humans. So already there's some clues in that where this shark, if it does occupy a more deep water environment, probably doesn't really run into people as often, and so that might be part of the reason why there's not a lot of footage on this species. This photograph is really interesting because the bignose shark in this photograph actually has a pretty high dorsal fin, which is characteristic of sandbar sharks. So you would think at first glance it would be a sandbar, but apparently the size of the head or the size of the snout is what kind of gives it away. At first glance, I'm used to sandbar sharks being a little bit stockier too. Like sandbar sharks are a little bit more compressed, I kind of feel. I feel like they're a little bit more rotund than bignose sharks. I think bignose sharks are a little bit more longer, a little bit more elongate, but we'll find out more as we keep learning about the species. So. Common names include the bignose shark and Knops shark. Interesting. Other names used to refer to the species are baboso, which is kind of fun in Spanish, Carcharhinus megalorhynchos in Greek, so that roughly translates as large-snouted shark. Hey Howard, good evening. Welcome back. Hope you had a great weekend. It was kind of funny. Our weekend last weekend was very relaxing. It was a lot of cleaning, shark art, cooking. It's that time of year to kind of really. It's starting to get colder, much colder down here. So it's that time of year to just kind of hunker in, watch movies. We actually watched the newest Jurassic World movie finally, Jurassic World Rebirth, which was fun. It was. I would say it's not as good as the Jurassic Parks, but better than the other Jurassic World movies. So the new Jurassic World was awesome. I really enjoyed it. Not perfect, but a lot of scary stuff in it. A lot of really good thrills and chills with dinosaurs. So that was one of our big things over the weekend. So, but hope you had a great weekend, and hope love to hear any things you're up to over the weekend as well. Tonight's species of bignose shark is going to be interesting because I was shocked that we didn't really have a lot of footage on it because it looks so similar to other kinds of shark species. It should occupy, kind of based on its body form, you would think it would occupy shallow water habitats, although Florida Museum of Natural History is saying that it lives offshore and lives in deep water, so maybe that's part of why we don't really see it that often. But I was just looking at the names. So we have bignose shark, baboso, Carcharhinus megalorhynchos. Let's see, squalonasso grande in Italian. Tiburon baboso, Groot Neusai in Afrikaans. It's funny I see Babosa or Babose coming up multiple times, so interesting. Importance to humans, a Bignose shark is caught by offshore trawlers and rarely by hook and line, is harvested in the Caribbean with deep long lines, and is utilized for fish meal and animal feed and for oil. In U.S. waters, the species is currently prohibited from capture in the commercial shark fishery. Now this is interesting. So this photograph is comparing a Bignose shark on the top and a dusky shark on the bottom, and that is horrifying because those two sharks look so similar to each other. But on a closer inspection, you do get to see some of the differences. So, like at first glance, they look almost exactly the same, right? But if you look at the head, there's actually a bit of a difference where the Bignose shark's lower jaw has a lot more of a prominent shape. The dusky shark's lower jaw is kind of more like a nice semicircle, but the Bignose shark's lower jaw is up. Looks more like it's up to like a point, or it points up. It's kind of like a more of a narrow. What do you call that? Parabola? Parabellum? It's like a narrow arch versus the dusky shark. It's kind of more of like an like the shape of the arch looks a little bit more equal. The Bignose sharks, like the midline of the lower jaw, it looks like that arch is a little bit more narrow. The pectoral fins look a little bit broader at the base too, but it's hard to tell just by the angle of this photograph. So, oh nice, busy here, just got in the door. Awesome. The snout, I honestly really can't tell the difference. I mean, I'm really seeing it with the mouth, but not really the snout, because it looks like the distance between the nostrils and the tip of the snout are the same between these two species. The distance between the nostrils and the jaw looks similar as well, but really the shape of the jaw is what's kind of throwing me off. And also the overall size of the head does look a little bit bigger proportionally than for the dusky shark, but I think the bigger problem with this exercise, the bigger point of this exercise is that if you're a fisherman fishing for sharks and one of these species is protected and one is not, this is really hard to tell apart. And this is one of the big problems in managing sharks and managing shark fisheries, is that species can look so similar to each other. Howard took my grandson and family to the ROM for the shark exhibit. That is so cool. What is the ROM? This is hold on. ROM Canada Shark Exhibit. Royal Ontario Museum. Oh, that is so cool. That is super cool. Actually, if we have time, Royal Ontario Museum Sharks. Love to check this out. Let's see. Sharks at the Royal Ontario Museum. So, really cool model of a megalodon. That's super cool. I love that there is a whale shark in the background. Oh man, this is so cool. The American Museum of Natural History. This reminds me of the American Museum of Natural History in New York. Did an amazing exhibit on sharks, and this looks very similar to that. This is super cool. I'm glad you guys had fun and went to this. This just looks super fun. But I love like the shark exhibits where was this a temporary one? Currently open. Oh, special. There we go. So it's open until March 22nd. So very, very cool. Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. It was awesome. But I love like the roaming exhibits, and I feel like sharks are like a really great subject for that. So speaking of sharks, I do have one clip, but this species is throwing me off, and this is like a really great example of how hard it is to tell apart Carcharhinus sharks. And I actually even don't know exactly what species this is. So this video is titled "Diving with Giant Sandbar Sharks," but these don't really look like sandbar sharks. They look a lot more elongate, and I would almost be tempted to say they're silky sharks, but they're not. The snout is much blunter than that. So I'm not exactly sure what species this is, and I would love any suggestions in the comments. It almost kind of looks like some kind of like a reef shark, like a Caribbean reef shark, but I don't think that's even correct. And part of me is wondering, well, is this a Bignose shark? But I'm not 100% sure about that either. This just shows you how hard it is to tell Carcharhinus sharks apart. So here we go. We'll play this clip. Kind of see how this animal moves. There we go. Oops. We don't need any noise with that. So it's very elongate. One of the best things that we could have used if we were closer to the shark and we had a better shot of it is... does it have a ridge on its back or not? That is one feature that is useful for telling Carcharhinus sharks apart from each other. But it's hard to tell from this video and from the angles in this video. So, hold on. It's very interesting. It's definitely in the genus Carcharhinus, so it's definitely a cousin of sandbar sharks and bignose sharks. This actually might be a bignose shark, but it's just really hard to tell apart because, again, this looks so elongated. The dorsal fin does not seem high enough for a sandbar shark. And I'd almost want to say they're duskies, but the placement of the first dorsal fin is too far up along the body, if I'm seeing that correctly. The first dorsal fin in dusky sharks is behind the free rear tip of the pectoral fins. So I don't think these are duskies, but I'm not 100% sure what this is. So love any comments or feedback on what species of shark you might think this is. I know, again, the title of the video says it's a sandbar shark, but I don't think it is. It could be Galapagos sharks, honestly. Yeah, so the origin of the first dorsal fin is definitely within the pectoral fin insertion, so it's not a dusky shark. So these might be Galapagos sharks. And speaking of which, I wonder if we can find a... It doesn't say where this video is taken. I'm going to leave a like. It looks like, I mean, it's clear water in a rocky environment. So that typically is more Pacific. If this is tropical water, it could also be kind of like warm temperate water. Let's see, if we take a look at the diver, we can maybe get some clues based on what they're wearing. But this looks like tropical or warm temperate water to me, and just with the rocks, it kind of feels like it's a Pacific location, but not 100% sure. Yeah, I actually might want to say those are Galapagos sharks, but it's hard to tell. Diver's wearing a cowl, so implying that the water's kind of cold. But that diver's not wearing one. And the suits, it's hard to tell thickness, but they seem either 3mm or 5mm, so this is probably like... And the water is shallow, so this actually probably is either tropical or kind of warm temperate, so hard to tell. I would love to hear any comments. Oh, yeah. Oh, this is great. My grandson was lit up. That is so cool. That's so cool, Howard, about the shark exhibit. It's awesome. And did they have any fossils in the exhibit, by the way? Because sometimes there's some great fossils that come with those shark exhibits, so we'd love to hear that if there was. Nice footage. Not sure what the species. I'm honestly kind of stumped. So if this is, my best guess is this is probably a Galapagos shark, because I do think Bignose sharks are a little bit more compressed than whatever this animal is, but it is cool to kind of take a look at it because it's a great example of just how difficult Carcharhinus sharks are to tell apart from one another. So, and getting back to Florida Museum of Natural History, there's a dusky shark and a bignose shark right next to each other, but they're really hard to tell apart. So, Danger to humans. Although this shark is large, it poses little threat to humans due to its deep water habitat. Conservation will skip, so we can see the latest assessment from IUCN Red List. It says for Bignose sharks, they are circumglobal in distribution of records in tropical and warm regions. So you can find them in Florida, Mexico, North and South America, southwestern Africa, a little bit in the Mediterranean, Hawaii, Red Sea, Madagascar, India. Interesting. Even China. Very interesting. Habitat. This large offshore species is found near the edges of continental shelves and in slopes at depths from near the surface to about 430 meters. The adults often swim at depths greater than 90 meters, while juveniles frequent shallower waters. So it's a species that spends its time in the deeper part of the epipelagic zone and a little bit of the twilight zone. So, distinguishing characteristics. This is going to be interesting. Here we go. Snout long and bluntly pointed to rounded, and we can compare with whatever this shark is. So there was a good view of it right here. So I feel like the snout would fit in this description for whatever this species is. First dorsal fin large. This is where it starts to get a little tricky, because I would say the dorsal fin on this shark is a bit medium-sized, so not really overtly large. First dorsal fin originates over pectoral fin insertion to mid-length of pectoral fin inner margin. So let's see if that's going on here. It looks like the origin of the first dorsal fin for this mystery shark is kind of almost there, maybe not quite there. This one's definitely not a dusky. I wonder if we can go back a little bit. Oh, that's too far. Go back a little bit more. So the dorsal fin origin, so the relation of the dorsal fin with pectoral fins is such a great way to help identify a species. So the origin is further back, but it's not quite crossing the free rear tip of the pectoral fin. So I don't think this one's a Bignose shark. I think we've ruled it out. Pectoral fins long, nearly straight. This shark kind of has that going on a little bit, whatever this species is. I'm going to pull up Galapagos Shark really quick in my copy of Sharks of the World, just to double check. Yeah, I think this is a Galapagos shark, but very hard to tell. Very, very hard to tell. But we definitely know it's not a Bignose shark. It's just the placement of the first dorsal fin, the size of the dorsal fin, and just overall, it looks a little different, where it just feels a little bit longer than what a Bignose shark is as far as the body plan. This is still going to be a mystery species. I want to guess it's a Galapagos shark, but I'm not 100% sure what shark this is. So for any future viewers or current viewers, if you know what this species is, please leave a comment, because we'd love to learn more about it. It almost looks like a dusky. It's just the dorsal fin is in kind of a wonky position, but interesting. So, oh cool, Howard. Lots of fossils, some species I haven't seen before. I will go again by myself so I could spend more time. That is so cool. Oh my gosh, I loved. It's been a while since I've been to. I'm thinking of. There's a museum in Florida that I want to say it's. Let me pull this up. There's a really cool museum in Florida that had. It was smaller, but it had these like really great shark exhibits. Bradenton, Florida Museum. The Bishop Museum of Science and Nature. That's what it was. So let me see if I can pull that up here. There we go. So I used to live near this well, I mean, I guess in the same city as this museum. So, um, but they had live manatees, which is super cool. Manatees are completely adorable. I was had the privilege of swimming with one in the wild. I didn't know it was in the water, which is really sad. So I was snorkeling and got up to take a break, and this giant manatee just rocketed out of nowhere, swimming away from me. I had no idea it was there. So, but they're super cool. Manatees are like the big things for this museum, but I know they have this great shark exhibit. It's part of this prehistoric series where they were talking about like ancient Florida. There we go. So we got megalodon jaws here. Um, it's a nice hodgepodge. It's like a natural history museum that is talking about wildlife, but also just like ancient cultures. So it was a really cool place. But anyway, let's see. So biology for the Bignose Shark. There we go. Bignose Shark is large and slender, flawed. The well-developed nasal flaps are prominent. The interdorsal ridge is high and conspicuous. Let's see. Bignose sharks are similar to night sharks in appearance. However, night sharks have a second dorsal fin free rear tip that is at least twice as long as the second dorsal fin height, while the Bignose shark does not have a long second dorsal fin free rear tip. The night shark also has green eyes. So, just to pull up a night shark. This is a really cool species that I think we covered in a stream relatively recently. But night sharks are super. There we go. That was a great view of a night shark. Night sharks are super cool, where they are a member of the family Carcharhinidae, so they are a requiem shark, but they are adapted to live in open water and deep open water. So they actually migrate up to the surface at night and then go back into the depths in the daytime. So they're super cool because it's kind of an unusual niche for this group of sharks. So, oh, they have really nasty teeth too. Very cool. So, oh, Howard, I love the Calvert Marine Museum. That one, it's been a while. It's been years since I've been to it, but that has a really great fossil collection. And last time I was there, they have live cow-nose rays, so a modern elasmobranch that spends a lot of time in the Chesapeake Bay. So, super cool place. So, let's see. Coloration for Bignose sharks is grayish body with no prominent markings, other than being white below and having black tips. So very typical coloration of requiem sharks. There may be a green sheen along the gills of freshly collected specimens. That's actually pretty interesting. Not heard that before. A lot of sharks, we've talked about how sharks have an iridescence to them, but it's kind of cool to see that there's a green sheen for Bignose sharks. The dentition is pretty formidable. So here we go. Teeth in the upper jaw are large and broadly triangular. So this is like the scary tooth type. This is the one that typically is good for seals, marine mammals, turtles. Serrated edges except for the first two series of each of the symphyses, which have concave outer margins. Lower teeth are narrow, finely serrated margins. Narrow serrated cusps, one symphyseal tooth. These sharks may reach lengths to about 10 feet or 3 meters and 370 pounds or 168 kilograms. Food habits. Prey of this offshore shark consists of bony fishes, including mackerels, soles, and batfish, and other elasmobranchs including dogfish, cat sharks, and stingrays, and cephalopods. So, cool to see. So it looks like this guy handles big fish. It's interesting to see that marine mammals are not on the menu, even though it has that really formidable triangular tooth shape for the upper teeth. So, interesting. Predators. Other sharks are potential predators of juvenile Bignose sharks. So it's kind of funny that they put a white shark in here because white sharks will, mostly eat anything. But so it's not targeting Bignose sharks. It's just Bignose sharks are one of many sharks that could be on the menu. But Reproduction is viviparous, so live-bearing. Birth occurs during different times of the year, depending on location. In the Mediterranean, this is from August to September, while off Madagascar, birth occurs during September and October. The litters are 3 to 11 pups, approximately 2.3 to 3 feet in length. Bignose Shark was described in 1950 as Carcharhinus altimus by Stuart Springer. A specimen used in the description is caught in the Florida Keys. The genus name Carcharhinus is derived from the Greek kakaros, which is sharpen, and rhinos is nose. Synonyms include Carcharhinus radami, which I've never heard of, from 1961. So it's cool to see like old shark names, like old synonyms where they're not relevant at all, so they're retired, but sometimes they're helpful as far as if you go back in older papers to try to find information. So we'll take a look at the conservation status of Bignose sharks, which I'm pleasantly surprised. Oh, Howard, yes, big pups. Whoops. So big pups for, it's a shark that's giving birth to a pup a third of its body size, so it's pretty huge. And then cutting, impaling, dentition, yes, 100%. And great observation as far as like the tooth type. You can tell a lot about how a shark eats based on the actual shape of the teeth. So really, really cool how much you can infer with that. So. But I'm very happy to say that Bignose sharks are near threatened. So they're not vulnerable, they're not endangered, they're nearly threatened. And for Carcharhinus sharks, that's not the worst place to be. Bull sharks used to be near threatened. I think bull sharks, unfortunately, have become vulnerable species now. So Bignose sharks seem to be doing better, but why? What is making Bignose sharks endure fishing pressures and other human-related pressures better than other shark species? So we will find out. The Bignose shark, here we go, is a medium-sized shark that is patchily distributed in warm, temperate, and tropical waters worldwide. It inhabits continental shelves and upper slopes at depths of 0 to 810 meters, with young mostly inshore and adults offshore close to the seafloor during the day and near the surface at night. So that's actually really interesting, where it's a deeper water species, like a twilight zone species that's like spending the daytime near the seafloor of deep ocean waters, and then it makes diel migrations, kind of like night sharks at night, which is super cool. Species like the idea that it's swimming up to the surface at night and then going down in the daytime is just like it's such an interesting adaptation and such an interesting niche. I just think that's really cool, and you wonder if it probably goes after like lanternfish or any kind of like mackerels or things that are like actually not even mackerel. It probably lanternfish is probably made a notable component of its diet if it's spending that much time in deep water. So species is taken as bycatch by industrial and small-scale fisheries, with pelagic longline and purse seine, trawl, and gillnet, and is retained for meat and fins. Now, population declined significantly over 30 years, whereas previously targeted in the Maldives prior to the closure of the fishery in 2010. The population is suspected to have declined by 20-29% in the northwest Atlantic and by 30% in the Arabian Seas over 3 generation lengths, which is 60 years, due to fishing pressure. Elsewhere, there are no specific species-specific data. However, it is subject to intense and unregulated fishing pressure across approximately half of its range and has a low biological productivity and inferred high susceptibility to fisheries. There is lesser fishing pressure in the other half of its range, where there are managed fisheries. It's suspected that the Bignose shark has undergone a population reduction of 20-29% over the past 3 generation lengths of 60 years due to levels of exploitation, as assessed as near threatened to close to medium vulnerable. So a little bit worse than I was expecting, but these reduction numbers not as bad as other sharks. Many sharks have seen 70, 80, or 90% population reduction by comparison, 20 to 30 is not as bad. It's still bad. It's not anywhere as bad as other shark species. So, let's see. Look at learn any conservation actions in place. In the United States waters, Bignose shark has been a prohibited species, at least since 2007, and is now prohibited under the Consolidated Atlantic Highly Migratory Species Fishery Management Plan. Targeted sharks fishing has been banned in the Maldives Exclusive Economic Zone since 2010. Globally, there are no international catch limits in place for Bignose sharks. To prevent further overfishing, it is recommended that Bignose sharks be subject to regional and national catch limits based on scientific advice or the precautionary approach, as well as improved reporting of catch and discard data and efforts to minimize bycatch mortality. Further research is needed on population size and trends and life history. So I appreciate that the listing of Bignose shark as a prohibited species, it seems almost as preventative as you can get as far as sharks management measures. And my guess is the reason why this was a prohibited species is that it's very hard to tell apart from sandbar sharks. Sandbar sharks are one of the most famous protected species in the United States. It's not the first shark to receive protection, but it's kind of one of the early poster child sharks or poster child sharks for protection. So when you think of shark conservation from like a fisheries management perspective, sandbar sharks are kind of like the first to come to mind. At least in the east coast of the United States, it was really like a big, very, very important species to create protection measures for due to its life history. And Bignose sharks, because they're so closely resembling sandbar sharks, I'm going to guess that they were just kind of lumped into that category of prohibited species just to make it easier on everybody, where it's like, look, we're not going to even bother expecting you to tell these two species apart. Let's just keep it protected, which is great. That's my guess. I'm not 100% sure, but it's interesting that Bignose sharks seem to fare better than sandbar sharks, because sandbar sharks are they're currently an endangered species, and I think the fact that they look so similar to each other may have benefited Bignose sharks as far as protection goes, but this is just a guess. I'm not 100% sure. Let's see. So originally described in 1950, the article was a revision of North American sharks allied to the genus Carcharhinus. That was the first time this species was mentioned. And here we go. So this is actually a really good example. This illustration by this is Mark Dando, I think. This illustration is an excellent example of why this shark is so hard to tell apart from sandbar sharks. This is such a perfect example. It has a very high dorsal fin, just like sandbar sharks. The proportions actually, at least in this illustration, look very similar to sandbar sharks, but the thing that is just making it a little bit different is the size of the snout. So, hence the name Bignose shark. I think we've seen this in genetic papers, but this species in sandbar sharks are not even like, they don't just physically resemble each other, but they're actually genetically pretty closely related too. So, but if we take a look at some of the ID guides for the species, here we go. So ways to tell apart a Bignose shark from other sharks is the origin of the first dorsal fin over the pectoral insertion to about over midpoint of pectoral fin inner margins. So that's an identification feature we read on the other website, but very helpful. Pectoral fins are large, hardly curved, with narrowly rounded or pointed narrow apices. It's kind of like a bull shark's fins. Sandbar sharks, I think, have more rounded fins slightly, but anyway. The snout is moderately long and bluntly pointed to rounded. The first dorsal fin is moderately large and curved, with bluntly pointed apex and posterior margin curving ventrally from the fin apex. There's a prominent, this is actually an interesting feature, prominent broad interdorsal ridge present. So it sounds like the ridge on this species is very high and very noticeable. So which is great. In the wild, if anybody was to run into the shark, that's actually a great first feature to look for. The origin of the second dorsal fin, slightly anterior to the anal fin. Second dorsal fin large and high. No conspicuous markings on the body. What's kind of funny is, based on this illustration, this almost looks like a blacktip shark, but it doesn't have any of the black tips. It actually really kind of looks like a weird mix of a sandbar shark and a blacktip shark, like something in the middle where it has like the large dorsal fin, the slightly somewhat pointed look, maybe even the pointed snout, kind of like a blacktip shark, but again, it doesn't have any conspicuous markings. Going back to the shark in this video, does this shark have conspicuous markings? And it does. So this mystery shark in the video is not a Bignose shark. I see a black dusky tip on the anal fin. Let's double check the pectoral fins too. Yeah, I think there's black tips on the pectoral fins, like on the underside. You know what? Maybe these are dusky sharks. This is tricky. This is really, really tricky because the placement of those... I still think they're Galapagos sharks. It's just like the placement of that first dorsal fin is what's really throwing me off, where it's like, yeah, dusky sharks shouldn't look like that. They're definitely not sandbar sharks, and they're definitely not Bignose sharks. This is something else. So. And then the black tips on the second dorsal fin and the anal fin helps confirm this is not a Bignose shark, whatever this species is. So, but anyway, common names. I think we ran through all these already. The Bignose shark or Knops shark, Squalo nasal grande. I really like that Italian name. Boboso, Kazon or Tiburon boboso. See. Man, no images. Really not a lot of info on this shark. This is on FishBase. There are a couple pictures of the species, so we could take a look at them here. So for this one, the origin of the dorsal fin right at the corner of the pectoral fin. So no tips on the body whatsoever, which is so interesting. Beautiful bronzy color. This little guy is a pup. Or a little girl, I should say, is a pup. Really, really beautiful coloration. Just smaller, little rounder features. This individual is bigger, and unfortunately looks pretty desiccated. So it's definitely, just by the way the body looks, this is a species that's been deceased for some time. Or sorry, an individual has been deceased for some time. But you can see pretty big head. Same origin of the dorsal fin relative to the pectoral fins. This is a great photo of a Bignose shark, and this is actually interesting to see because this looks a little bit different. Where that first dorsal fin is pretty high, but also looks pretty sharp looking. Sandbar sharks have like a nice broad first dorsal fin. Bignose sharks, it just looks a little bit different as far as like being a little bit sharper looking, almost like a blacktip shark. So. Illustration, and then view of the underside of the head. Looks like the jaws are pretty wide on this shark. The actual snout, I know this is named a Bignose shark, but it doesn't seem very distinct. The shape of the lower jaw is interesting looking because it's a little bit, I think it is helpful for identification because it is a little bit narrower looking than other shark species. So the point is a little bit narrower. We'll see if FishBase has any... all these photos came from FishBase, and I'm kind of curious to see if they have any information. Altimus. The Latin name Altimus comes from Latin for highest, illusion not explained nor evident. So the highest Carcharhinus shark, but we don't know why it's called that. So, interesting. And almost like kind of wish they got rid of that name then, because it could mean is the dorsal fin the highest, which I don't think that would be the right way to do. Right, that wouldn't be really accurate or helpful, since sandbar sharks have a high dorsal fin. It could be that the ridge on the back of the shark is the highest, but again, it's like, don't know. Don't know why it's called altimus, which is kind of funny actually. So, environment lives 12 to 810 meters, but usually 80 to 220, so deeper water shark. Let's see if there's anything new. Biology, found near the edge of the continental and insular shelves and uppermost slopes. Rare in shallow waters. Bottom associated near shelf breaks and drop-offs. Young may occur at 25 meters. Feeds on bony fishes, other sharks, stingrays, and cuttlefish. Gives birth every second year, so kind of a slow life history, with 1 to 13 pups per litter. The Mediterranean sharks give birth in August and September, however Madagascar young are born in September, October. Alright. So, again, very interesting niche for this species, where it likes to be in deeper water, and it's rare in shallow water, and that's part of why we don't really talk about it too much. We don't really have a lot of information on Bignose sharks. It's because humans don't really run into them that often. So there's a couple of guides we'll take a look at from Food and Agriculture Association of the United Nations, and we'll actually dive into some research. So I'm surprised that there was as much research on the species with so little information scientifically, but there you have it. We'll dive in. So this is a nice image of a Bignose shark here. Although this image is a little bit questionable. Make sure I got this right. Yeah. This image is a little bit questionable because this individual has black tips on its anal fin, so this may be a different species. Color is not the best descriptor for sharks, but anyway. In this FAO guide, you have the depth range, so 0 to 430 meters. Let's see. This little yellow bar indicates that this is a demersal species, so it likes to spend its time on the bottom. Let's see, max length is 300 centimeters or 3 meters. Let's see. And then it is not listed in any of these protections except for the GFCM. Global Fisheries, let's see what that is. GFCM. No, they're not going to explain it? Okay. Let's see. General Fisheries Commission for the Mediterranean is what that is. So it is protected by the General Fisheries Commission of the Mediterranean as of 2012. So. Let's see. I think I have a couple more guides here. This is actually a really cool key. So this is a dichotomous key to help identify shark species. And let me see if I can kind of zoom out so we can get a better view of this. There we go. Okay, there we go. Let's see, so this has a lot of different shark species on this dichotomous key. Let's see. If we look at Carcharhiniforms here, You have you can either choose when you look at it's like choose your own adventure. If you look at the two options, if you could choose head with a lateral blade-like expansion or head normal without lateral expansions. A normal head is going to be closer to what we want for sharks. So the lateral expansions, of course, are hammerhead sharks. First dorsal fin origin well ahead of pelvic fin origin. The opposite would be the cat sharks. Precaudal pits present, so that takes us either to the Bignose Shark or tiger shark. This is interesting. I never noticed this before. One way to tell the family Carcharhinidae apart from the tiger shark, Sardonidae, is spiracles. I actually never noticed that before. Tiger sharks apparently have spiracles, but the sandbar sharks, bull sharks, and bignose sharks don't have them. So that's actually a really cool way to tell Carcharhinidae from tiger sharks. And tiger sharks recently split off from Carcharhinidae. It's based on a lot of aspects of their biology, especially how they reproduce. It's just very different from the family Carcharhinidae, the requiem sharks, but I never noticed that about the spiracles, where tiger sharks have them and requiem sharks don't. So, really cool. Let's see, if you look at Carcharhinidae, let's see, you can look at this next key feature. Let's see. Okay. So spiracles absent, upper labial furrows long to very short, not extending in front of eyes. The origin of the second dorsal fin above or behind the middle of the anal fin, or the origin of the second dorsal fin above or slightly behind the origin of the anal fin. So if it was very far behind, it would be apparently Rhizoprionodon, which is the sharp-nosed sharks. If it's right above the anal fin, it is either Carcharhinus, which is what the Bignose Shark is a part of, or Prionace, which is the blue shark. Midpoint of the first dorsal fin base closer to the pectoral fin axilla than pelvic fin's origins, or the midpoint of the first dorsal fin base equidistant between the pectoral and pelvic fin axilla and closer to pectoral fins. So apparently, Carcharhinus sharks have their first dorsal fin closer to the pectoral fins. Blue sharks have the first dorsal fin right in the middle between the pectoral fins and the pelvic fins. So we want Carcharhinus, so it would be this feature. If the dorsal fin is closer to the pectoral fins, it's Carcharhinus. And then once you get into Carcharhinus, you look for, this is so important, the interdorsal ridge, if it's present or absent. We know that Bignose sharks have an interdorsal ridge. It's really prominent, so it's present. So we go here. Let's see, first dorsal fin origin behind the pectoral fin axilla, or the first dorsal fin origin over or anterior to the pectoral fin free rear tips. So we're going to check here. Okay. This yellow box is the really important character. So snout narrowly rounded, length greater than mouth width, or snout broadly rounded. So a broadly rounded snout would be a dusky shark. Narrowly rounded would be the Bignose shark. So that's where the Bignose shark comes in. It's kind of interesting to see on the key, it's close to the Sandbar Shark and the dusky shark. So pretty interesting. But Bignose Shark, the snout and the length being greater than the mouth width is what kind of gives it away. So, but this is a pretty cool dichotomous key. I know I had another guide here. Let's see. Okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for, FAO guide. So here's one of the older illustrations of Bignose sharks. So apparently one of the key features is modeled here, where the snout is longer than the length of the mouth, or width of the mouth. So love these FAO guides because they go into these species catalogs. They go into a lot of detail. So here we go. Field marks: a large, deep benthic shark with a long, rounded, or bluntly pointed snout, prominent interior nasal flaps, high, triangular serrated teeth without cusplets and upper jaw, erect, narrow cusped serrated teeth in lower jaw, usually 15 to 14 and 15 rows of anterior posterior teeth, a high interdorsal ridge, moderately high first dorsal fin, long, nearly straight pectoral fins, and moderately high second dorsal fin with a short free rear tip and no conspicuous markings. Let's see. We won't read all the diagnostic features, but we'll just kind of skim through. Gill slits are moderately long. The serrated teeth is interesting because, again, it suggests it would handle larger prey items, but... Excuse me. Color is light gray above, sometimes bronzy, white below with dusky fin tips except for pelvic fins, but no conspicuous markings, white markings on flank inconspicuous. Occurs in most warm, temperate, and tropical seas worldwide, but distribution is patchy. Western... Oh, Howard, good eye. The drawing has black tips. So that is a good catch and interesting because now we're starting to see an inconsistency where one of the guides was saying Bignose sharks don't have coloration on their fins. This photo has coloration. Oops. This illustration by Mark Dando, prominent shark artist, is saying no conspicuous markings in the body. So that's actually interesting. Okay, Florida Museum is saying grayish body with no prominent markings other than being white below and having black tips inner corners of the pectoral fins. The tips of all fins other than pelvics are dusky in color. Weird. So, a lot of weird inconsistencies as far as the coloration for the shark. Good catch, Howard. It's interesting. Where were we? Color. No conspicuous markings. White markings of flanks inconspicuous. Distribution occurs in most temperate and tropical seas worldwide, but distribution is patchy. Western Atlantic is Virginia, my home state, to Florida. Bahamas, Cuba, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Venezuela. Eastern North Atlantic unknown at the present time from Area 27, but does occur in the Mediterranean Sea and the eastern Central Atlantic from off Senegal, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. A common, large, offshore, bottom-dwelling, warm, temperate, and tropical shark, usually found in deeper water near the edge of the continental insular shelves and the uppermost slopes at depths of 80 meters or more, down to at least 250 to 430 meters. The young may occur in shallower water, up to 25 meters in depth. A large, mostly a bottom-dwelling shark, it is known to make forays into the surface, especially at night. An individual about 280 centimeters length was once caught in the daytime at the surface in water over 130 meters deep by a party boat traveling from Marlin. The shark species appears to benthic species during the day, but at night actively migrates vertically, as individuals have been seen at or near the surface of the water depths up to 1,000 meters. Wow. So it's kind of cool that it probably is following prey items in like deal migration. So when deep water animals come up at night, just to be like closer to the moonlight or just closer to the surface, it's kind of cool that this is the shark that follows them. So very, very cool. Eats a variety of bony fishes, including lizardfish, croakers, batfish, soles, and other sharks, including dogfish, cat sharks, stingrays, and cuttlefish. That's actually interesting that they named dogfish and cat sharks specifically, because both actually do prefer to be in deep water. So, let's see. Apparently regularly taken in the Caribbean region on deep set long lines. Utilized for fish meal, oil, and shagreen. In some areas, Bignose sharks are often mistaken for sandbar sharks, and that may have led to underreporting of catches of this species. Although of large size, the species is probably not dangerous to people because of its deep water habitat. Let's see. I'm curious where we get the name Knops shark from. Not heard that before. So we'll move on. Oh, here's kind of a cool illustration. I think we've seen this guide before, but I really love the illustrations that come with it. So, Bignose Shark, Carcharhinus altimus, also known as Requiem babose or Tiburon baboso. In Japanese, it's known as a habire. And in Portuguese is Moracho baboso. Let's see, we already kind of read through these features. Color light gray above, sometimes bronzy, white below with dusky fin tips, except for pelvic fins, but no conspicuous markings. White markings on flanks inconspicuous. Nice illustration of the snout and the teeth. 100%. Yeah, I definitely agree. The drawing is fantastic. I'm currently working on. You might get a kick out of this, Howard. I'm working on a dogfish drawing right now. Let me go and grab it really quick. Let's see. But it's funny. I've drawn sharks before, but I've never done them this well before, and it's about timing because I used to just try to draw sharks in one go, and this new project I'm doing, I'm devoting an entire month to a shark, and it's really helping because I'm taking more time getting the proportions right and everything. But this is Squalus acanthius. I don't know if this is a good view down here, but this is my illustration of a spiny dogfish, also known as a piked dogfish. So I've got the first part done, and then I'm just gonna get going on the trunk of the body. But I just wanted to get like the head and the pectoral fin, the gills, some of the spots going on, and the first dorsal fin spine. So I'm very, very excited for this illustration to kind of come through. So I'm gonna put this back where this was. I should get like a proper camera. Thank you. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm really, really happy with this new project. Let's see if I can do this without screwing up my setup. But I don't know if I show you guys I've got that sand devil in that corner over there. This is really awkward, but I'm gonna put all these sharks up, the ones that I finished. So my sand devil's just chilling out over there. But what I'm kind of ultimately doing is I'm making this collection of shark illustrations of species that live in my home ecoregion, and I'm putting them up and taking them off based on whether or not they're here, based on their seasonality. So right now it's November, so the water temperature is getting cold. It's not freezing yet, but it is getting colder. So most of the summertime sharks are gone. So we, as an example, we don't have the bull sharks anymore, the hammerheads, except for the smooth hammerhead. That one is still probably around. But most of the summertime sharks are gone. And this month is the month that dogfish come back into this area. So and they really, for me, signaled the change of seasons where it's you really know it's the winter when dogfish are back. We have other wintertime species coming down, like our basking sharks. They're coming down this time of year, and I'm just excited to kind of like map them out as far as this project is like it's a rotating collection of photos I pin up on the wall based on which sharks are going to be in the area this time of year. So I've been really enjoying this project. It's been super fun. And it's just fun kind of taking time to work on a species each month and just kind of learn more about it and learned a lot about it through art. I've been really like taking the time to focus on it in that detail is kind of helping me see how the animal works, and like why it looks the way it looks, and like how that affects its biology, and like how like how it's adapted. It's super cool. So I really enjoyed. It's been a while since I've really focused on drawing sharks, and I've really enjoyed it. So um, let's see. Getting back to the Bignose Shark, and I agree. What kind of spurred this conversation was, this tangent was, this is a beautiful illustration. Let's see who made this, by the way, because this is we've seen this artist a couple times, but I forget who did this series. Because we have Mark Dando, Val Kells, who else am I missing? For shark illustrations, I really feel like I'm missing somebody. Howard Kerr, but there's another shark artist that is like really important. I can't believe I'm not thinking of them. Okay, here we go. So we've definitely seen. Oh, that's a Bignose Shark right there. That's really cool. So this publication is Identification Guide to the Deep Sea Cartilaginous Fishes of the Indian Ocean. Let's see. Okay, color illustrations, cover, and graphic design are Emanuela de Antoni. Emanuela de Antoni, who I'm not familiar with, but like they've done an amazing job. These are gorgeous illustrations. So, Howard, I agree. The more time I have, the better final result. One of the reasons I haven't submitted lately, but I hope to get back to it soon. Yes, please. Would love to see your art. And I totally get you on that. As far as like the best things do take time. I am excited to see your next piece, but you know, all great things do take time. So I definitely 100% understand that. And case in point, this is probably this illustration probably took a very long time to create. As always, sharks are extremely hard to draw because of the proportions. That's the most difficult thing about them. I feel like other animals, they're a little bit easier because it's easier to kind of judge how everything kind of works together as far as the proportions. But sharks, there's just something about like the fins, the shape. It's just very, very tricky. So, oh hey, that should include the snaggletooth. Let's see if we can find it. Here we go. Pristis. Oh, sorry, I'm not typing it correctly. Oh, I think we got Squall's Hemipennis. Hemisphere. It looks like Snaggletooth Shark is not in this one. Let's see. But it should be. Let me make sure I've got that right. Hold on. Because I think there is a kind of weasel shark in here. So let's see. Hemigaliidae. Okay, here we go. Kynogalius. Hemigalius. No, Paragalius. Oh wow. I'm surprised that Hemigaliidae is not in this. So maybe technically it's because it's deep water species. Let's see what the parameters are for this book. Deep water. Okay. These guides are really great because they kind of explain the rationale. So here we go. This guide was prepared under the FAO Deep Sea Fisheries Program thanks to generous funding from the governments of Norway and Japan. Blah 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 blah. The Indian Ocean deep sea chondrichthyan fauna is currently represented by 117 shark species. Let's see. Oh, cool. Sorry, Howard. I want to draw them in lifelike poses in situ with their environment. Very cool. For Hemipristis. Let's see. I'm curious where the depth cutoff is. Glossary of technical terms. Did it not say? My guess is this would be species beneath 200 meters. Oh, wait a minute. No, how to use this guide. The present guide covers deep sea Indian Ocean, primary FAO fishing areas 51 and 57. Interesting. It doesn't define deep sea. Yeah, sorry, Howard. I got so distracted by this, where it's like I'm trying to figure out what the definition is, because usually guides like this have that definition built in. So, okay, gotcha. Okay, that's why we don't see them depth. That makes sense, because if I'm not mistaken, Hemipristis is a shallow water genus, and it makes sense, but really interesting though that this guide doesn't go into it. So my guess it's probably Twilight Zone and beyond, but not 100% sure why it's omitted. So, but good sleuthing though in terms of like trying to figure out why they wouldn't include Hemipristis here. So, but there probably is a comparable guide to this that would include shallow water species. So hopefully, as I click through, maybe something will come up. Let's see if there's any new biology notes back to the Bignose Shark. Common large offshore bond-dwelling warm temperate and tropical shark, usually found in deeper water near the edge of the continental and insular shelves. In the Indian Ocean is recorded in South Africa, Madagascar, Red Sea, Oman, Maldives, India, possibly Sri Lanka, Indonesia, and Australia, Western Australia. Interesting. One interesting thing is there any other Carcharhinus down here? And it's just this species. So that's actually really cool. So this is a deep water guide, but this is the only Carcharhinus that goes into deep water. So the next sharks on this list are Pseudotriachus microdon, the false cat shark. So that's very distantly related. And then the rays. So that's actually kind of cool that the Bignose Shark is unique in its ability to be a Carcharhinus, but to go into deep water. So very cool. And definitely agree, Howard. Nice range. So that makes sense that it covers a wide variety of ground or seafloor, because deep water habitats tend to be largely homogeneous, no matter where you are, since the water temperature and the pressure are more stable. So, also that was kind of cool. It's kind of cool going from the color illustration to the black and white illustration, and kind of seeing similarities and differences. The proportion of the caudal fin seems larger in this one. And the pectoral fin seems a lot different. It's like this illustration looks like the head is a lot narrower. So interesting stuff. But anyway, this is another FAO guide. Let's see what we have. If there's anything new. It might be the same printing. It's funny they don't give it a larger eye. That's actually a good point, because you would think a deep water species would have a larger eye. But these are pretty moderately sized eyes here. Yeah, this is the same information as the other guide, so I think we may jump into more research. Oh, here we go. This is a little bit different. So, Carcharhinus altimus, Bignose Shark, recommend babose. Local names: Kanti, Jangli Mangar, Kalawani, and Kanaitar. Let's see. This one's also saying no conspicuous markings. Okay. So I think with that, we're going to dive into some research relating to the Bignose Shark. And in the meantime, please let me know if there's any species you want to cover next week. This is actually pretty interesting, so let's see. Looks like the Bignose Shark is briefly mentioned in this paper. This map looks really cool, but it's a map of distribution of longline sets between 1987 and 2010 in Northwest Atlantic Ocean. So this is kind of like fishing pressure in areas of like higher pressure versus lower pressure. So you can see like the East Coast of the United States, Gulf of Mexico, Florida, Bahamas, lots of long-line activity. But as you get further offshore, not so much, and really not a lot in the Gulf of Maine. Kind of interesting to see. But it looks like there's a fisheries observer study, so we'll kind of move on to see where the Bignose Shark might be showing up. Alright, I went through these. What's going on here? Okay. Evaluation of shifts in the potential future distributions of Carcharhinus sharks under different climate change scenarios. Let's see. This might be interesting. I might sneeze in a second too. Sorry. 1 second. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Climate change is currently considered one of the main phenomena affecting marine species through expansion or contraction of the distribution. Being ectothermic organisms, sharks of the family Carcharhinidae could be highly susceptible to the effects of climate change. These sharks are of great ecological importance, which is related in their role in the integrity of coastal and oceanic ecosystems as top predators that act to maintain the stability of the food chain, as well as providing economic value through fishing, consumption, and ecotourism. So before we continue, I was actually reading about shark temperature last night because I was learning more about spiny dogfish, and this is such a basic concept, but it is so interesting to see where temperature relating to metabolic function, where the warmer the water is, the more quickly a shark can move, the more food it requires in order to maintain its activity. And the faster growing pups it can have, I think larger pups too. So water temperature, directly relates to a lot of things. Conversely, if you have conversely to warmer water temperature, if you are in colder water temperature, uh, your metabolic processes are slower, meaning that you require less food, but you grow more slowly, reproduce more slowly, you age longer in colder water if you're a shark. So it's actually kind of cool that there's a trade-off between cold water and warm water. So it's also kind of why a lot of these deep sea sharks, they don't need a lot of food. They could just take one meal and then swim slowly on the seafloor and scavenge for a very long time. Whereas shallow water sharks like great whites, they have to, consume a lot and hunt very actively for their prey, like seals. And it is actually really amazing to think about how water temperature affects metabolism, affects growth. And so, with all that being said, a study on climate change relating to sharks is especially interesting, where, how is this going to affect the metabolism of sharks? How is it going to affect their timing, as far as, the amount of food that they need to require in order to keep swimming, and then, their timing as far as mating and growing. It's super interesting. Rough-skinned spur dog might be a really good shark to study. Let's see. And we've already covered that. There's a lot of other dogfish in Serigalius. So that's a great suggestion. Let's see if we can pull that up. Playlists. Okay. Oh, we have not done it. Okay. Yeah, rough-skinned spur dog it is. Let's do it. That's like a famous cousin of pike dogfish, so here we go. Alright, so I'm going to type that scientific name in the chat, but great suggestion, Howard. Rough-skinned spur dog for next week. Serigalius asper. Excited to learn more about that. That is a deep water species that, I think when people first get into sharks, they think there's only one kind of dogfish. And it's probably one of the first dogfish that challenged that as far as, like, it's one of the first newer dogfish species that people, I think, learn as they get more into sharks. So it's like it's a really, really cool group of sharks, and like a split off from the squalus group. So really great pick. So I'm excited for next week for that. So for this climate change study, here we go. Currently, shark populations are threatened by fishing pressure and anthropogenic activities, including meeting the demand for shark fins. Despite the ecological and economical importance of Carcharhinus sharks, knowledge regarding how they are impacted by climate change remains scarce. Ecological niche modeling is a tool that allows analysis of future potential distributions under different climate change scenarios and can contribute to future planning activities and improve conservation outcomes for sharks. We generate models in Maxent in order to predict the potential geographic distribution of 25 Carcharhinus sharks that inhabit Mexican waters, projecting this onto future climate change scenarios, to calculate the potential losses and gains in their distribution areas by the year 2050. The greatest shifts in suitable areas were observed for the sharks Trianodon obesus, so this is the white-tip reef shark, apparently gains a lot of area, which is interesting, and then Carcharhinus porosus loses area. So I think that's a small tail shark. Let me make sure I got that right. Carcharhinus porosus. I really should know that one. I think that's small tail shark. Where are you? Yep, small tail shark, Carcharhinus porosus. So that's like a little Carcharhinus that is not really well known, unfortunately. So overall, under all 4 RCP future scenarios, 6 species presented gains in suitable areas and 19 species presented losses. The greatest loss of suitable area for Carcharhinus sharks was found with RCP 8. However, under this high emission global warming scenario, 7 species actually showed increase in distribution area. Our results therefore indicate that climate change could reduce suitable areas for most of the species by 2050. Assessments of the distribution of shark species under climate change is urgently required in order to prioritize conservation efforts towards the most vulnerable species and to ensure their natural function of marine ecosystems, thus maintaining the important ecosystem services they provide to human society. So, really cool study. I'm just going to skim through this part. I'm not going to read this in detail, but let's see. Tropical marine fauna is among the groups of animals most sensitive to climate change, since their members evolved in a relatively stable thermal environment and are expected to respond to environmental change by shifting the distribution to areas more conducive to maintaining a physiological optimum. Tropical animals, that is actually really scary because it's not just the temperature. It has to be that combination of temperature and solar energy where, say the water warms up and it's too warm for you, you as a species could move north to find warm water, but that's not going to solve all your problems because the further north you move, the less solar energy you're getting, and depending on the animal, that could directly or indirectly affect their biology in the sense that, maybe it doesn't do anything to them directly, but maybe it has an impact on the kind of plants that they eat or plankton that they eat, or it could affect them directly. In a weird way, tangentially related, I've heard sometimes people further north have seasonal depression or SADS, and it literally is correlated with higher latitudes, lower solar energy. So the presence or absence of the sun matters depending on the situation. And for animals, it's it really depends on the species. Some species can absolutely be fine with it and have amazing ranges, and some species are a lot more sensitive to it. So it's interesting to kind of think about. Let's see. Regarding the modification of environmental variables, the global average sea surface temperature is predicted to rapidly rise by 1 to 3 degrees Celsius as a result of the greenhouse effect. Changes in sea surface temperature are often accompanied by variations in salinity, which is another environmental variable that could be modified by climate change. For instance, decreased salinity could be due to the melting of glaciers and ice sheets, which increased salinity can be reduced by higher sea surface temperatures and evaporation. Wow. Variations in salinity are also related to large-scale changes in water movement, and it has been speculated that increased wind stress due to climate change could lead to increased coastal currents and upwelling. So, wild stuff. Really freaky. And, really freaky where it's... I appreciate that the language shifted from climate... I forget when this started happening. It shifted from global warming to climate change, and climate change is a better term. Because it is literally change in the environment, and change can be good or bad. But the point is it's change, meaning it's not predictable, meaning that... your baseline assumptions and the baseline biology of the animals that are in this habitat is rapidly altering, and some are going to be okay, perhaps in that scenario, but some of them are not. It's going to be too much out of their control. So unfortunately, recently there was, I think it was about a month ago, they were talking about Florida corals, where some are just really gone, where they're not handling the stresses. I think we had a particularly bad year in 2023 as far as water temperature goes, and that just really wiped out a big part of a certain reef system. So not all the coral, but it's like corals are extremely sensitive to climate change and to rising water temperatures. So it's interesting to think about how this is going to affect sharks, because sharks are highly mobile. That's the interesting thing about them is compared to a coral, coral is very stationary, and coral is like the poster child animal that has to be in the right temperature but also get the right amount of sunlight because of how their zooxanthellae, like algae, work. But sharks, because they're mobile, it's interesting to think are like, is that something that can help them, or is it something that isn't really that important of a factor? It sounds like based on this paper, it's a little bit of both, which is kind of interesting. So, let's see. Yes, 100%, Howard. Everything is interconnected. Um, like it, and so on a silly note and a serious note. On a silly note, I don't know if you've ever seen the show Wilfred, which is hilarious. It's this like kind of like dark comedy. I think originally is from New Zealand. It's with Elijah Wood and this guy in like a big goofy dog suit. But there's a quote that Wilfred has where everything relates to everything, and it's so simple, but it's so true. Where it's like you can't isolate one variable from the other variables. You have to see how they all push and pull and tug at everything else. Like every decision you make tugs at five other decisions. And then on a serious note, like my favorite movie of all time is The Lion King. Like no joke, like the 1994 one, not the new one. I've never seen it, never want to see it. The 1994 one, the original Lion King, is fantastic. And the reason why that story has endured so well and so much and for so long has touched a lot of people, and is like a Broadway musical has also touched a lot of people. The messaging is it's very pure and boiling everything down to very simple concepts with very powerful implications, and the big one being the great circle of life, where everything relates to everything impacts everything. Everything is kind of like what you do to one thing affects another thing, and it's just really cool to see it. And this you apply it to real world scenarios like climate change, like as you know the Earth warms or as temperatures rise, it the amount like rising temperatures increase evaporation at the equator, which in turn affects water movement, which in turn affects weather patterns, which in turn also again affects water movement. And it's just, I mean, this article is like naming all the things that can happen, like increased salinity because of evaporation, decreased salinity because of melting glaciers. Like it's everything relates to everything. So, and as the circle turns and as things like morph and change, what animals are going to be like, who's going to be adapting to it and riding it and able to endure it and able to like really harmonize with the change the best that they can, and who's not. I mean, like cataclysmic climate scenarios, I think the Permian extinction was one of those where even then there were animals that were able to get through that, and some animals not. This is not a good example because the Cretaceous extinction was a true cataclysm with the meteor and everything, but that was a rapid change that the dinosaurs couldn't adapt to, but mammals did, or like smaller shrew-like mammals did, birds did. Like this is interesting stuff to think about. But anyway, one taxonomic group of marine fishes has been put at risk by the rapid environmental modification imposed by climate change as chondrichthyans, sharks, rays, and chimeras. Some studies of shark species in particular have described potential changes in their distribution in response to projected changes in climate, which are related to their reduced or increased availability of suitable habitat and poleward shifts in their distribution. Other study, and this is something that is affecting whales too. A lot of whales, unfortunately, they used to have larger ranges, but they're concentrating more and more onto the poles because that is where like krill is concentrated. So, other studies have evaluated the potential distribution of Carcharhinus sharks with climate change using species distribution modeling, and genuinely report a reduction or shift in suitable area for future distributions under different climate change scenarios. Let's see. The consequences of climate change could also be reflected in the integrity of the ecosystem due to the close interdependency between it and the sharks. This relationship signifies that in coastal and oceanic habitats, the sharks keep the food web healthy, maintain the carbon cycle, and comprise one of the largest groups of apex predators. Sharks occupy a high trophic level in marine habitats and play a key role in structure, function, and health in marine ecosystems. Food webs are essential for the stability, maintenance, and control of the populations of the commercial and non-commercial species that occupy the lower trophic levels, indirectly affecting the economy. Given all of these functions, sharks also help to preserve the stability of ecosystems such as coral reefs, and thus maintain the provision of their ecosystem services. The depletion of sharks. In addition to the effects of climate change on sharks, populations of their functionally important species assemblages have declined because of rising fishing pressure, increasing the risk of global extinction. The depletion of sharks could also be the result of indirect anthropogenic threats, including the loss of contamination of their habitat. This factor can be added to the disadvantages conferred by their intrinsic low phenotypic plasticity in life history patterns, for example, slow growth, reduced fecundity, late sexual maturity, and long gestation time. Carcharhinids are subject to high fishing mortality as a result of intentional and incidental capture in a variety of fisheries, of which there are high levels in Mexico. International fishing of carcharhinids is mainly conducted to obtain liver oil, cartilage, meat, or fins, for example in the case of Carcharhinus falciformis, the silky shark, and the Prionus glauca, the blue shark. Furthermore, shark cage diving is currently a prominent feature of ecotourism activities in various parts of the world, including Mexico. Let's see. Okay, I'm curious if they're going to describe the different climate change scenarios. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Let's see if I can. So we'll take a look at this shark. I forget the name of it. So Nasolamia velox, and I forget what kind of shark that is. I know it should be in here. The white-nosed shark. Okay. So this is kind of a cool map showing Nasolamia velox. The white-nosed shark's distribution. These are two different climate change scenarios for this species. In this scenario on the left, you have a loss of range in Baja California. The yellow area is the maintained range, the purple area is a loss, and then the green area is a gain. In the scenario on the right, you still are losing Baja California and a lot of Central America. You're gaining a little bit in the Northern Pacific, but not much. So this is kind of like, it looks like they did models for a lot of different carcharhinid shark species. I don't think the Bignose shark is in here, but let's see. Here we go. Oh, the Bignose shark is in here, so here we go. Let's check this out. There he is. Okay. Okay, so this is the Bignose shark. This is what's going to happen in one scenario of climate change. Yellow is a maintained area, green is gain, purple is loss. So looks like the Bignose shark is actually fairly resilient, gains some ground in the kind of Iberia and northwestern Africa, loses the Mediterranean, so between Turkey, Egypt, so I think it's called the Levantine Sea, but it loses ground here, it loses some Red Sea ground, But overall, maintains a pretty large range. And this probably, I would guess that this is because the Bignose Shark is a deep water species, and again, deep water habitat is relatively stable. So it looks like this shark actually might resist climate change fairly well. In scenario two, very interesting. The same species. This is a different kind of climate change scenario where it's still maintaining a lot of habitat, but in scenario two, it still loses a part of the Mediterranean. It loses a huge part of Indonesia, which is interesting, but it gains more habitat in the middle of the Pacific, kind of near Hawaii, as well as Northwest Africa and then Iberia. So, unfortunately for me, it looks like in this scenario it's going to lose a coastal presence in Virginia, which is sad. And same with the other climate change scenario. It looks like it loses that. So this is a really cool study, and I'm actually going to post this in the comments so people can see this. Excuse me. Oh, Howard, I love paleontology so much because it speaks to life, death, adaptation, and survival through changing environments on Earth. Some so extreme that we could not survive due to a lack of oxygen, and yet there still was life, including sharks. I'm gonna star both these comments, Howard. That's really awesome, and thank you for sharing that because that's actually really beautiful. And it's true. Paleontology is a story of the Earth, and what like there's so much we can learn from it and take from it. And one of my big takeaways, and like you just mentioned, is that sharks are going to be around. They will be here. They will survive. They've survived before, and they will be here long after we're gone. They are going to be around. And what's exciting and frightening at the same time is which sharks will be around. Which ones are going to, maintain and reproduce and like continue on and evolve throughout time. Because we technically have not lost a shark yet. Like a modern Cenozoic shark species. Well, not Cenozoic. Sorry, we've totally lost those. A modern Holocene or Anthropocene shark species. We have not lost one yet, but we're very close. On that note, this is kind of morbid. I am kind of curious to see if IUCN has any updates. I really probably shouldn't be doing this, but let's see if we've lost any sharks. I don't think we have, but let's see. There's a way you can do an advanced search in IUCN Red List where you can actually find species based on Red List category, and they include extinct species. So here we go. So sharks are a kind of animal. They are a chordate. They're in the class Chondrichthyes, and they're a mix of the Carcharhinus, which are the requiem sharks, Squaliforms, which are the dogfish, Erectolobiforms, the carpet sharks, Lambdiforms, the mackerel sharks, Squatiniforms, the angel sharks, Hexantiforms, the cow sharks and frill sharks, Heterodontiforms, the bullhead sharks, and then finally Prisciophoriforms, the saw sharks. Chondrichthyes is not in here, so they probably are still calling it a squaliform. But anyway, let's see. Okay, great. We have 0 extinct sharks, 0 extinct in the wild, 0 regionally extinct. So that's good. We still have critically endangered species. So who do we have? Angel shark, sand tiger, yeah. Indonesian angel shark, oceanic white tip, scalloped hammerhead, great hammerhead. These are critically endangered. Let's see if anybody new joined the list. All of these I think are the same. Lost shark, Borneo shark, Pondicherry shark, small eye hammerhead, scallop bonnethead, angel sharks and hammerheads really. Oh, winghead shark, that actually might be new. That's a critically endangered species. Really sad. So angel sharks and hammerheads are like the big ones, which is really sad. Let's see if we lost any rays. I'm kind of curious if any rays actually didn't make it. So we're going to use the same parameters. It's great to see that we haven't lost any sharks yet, but we're getting extremely close, unfortunately. Did any rays go extinct? I don't think they did, but we will see. Oop, oop. Sorry. Oh, wow, look at this. There is one extinct species of ray. What is this? The Java stingery. So this is the only elazabranch that has ever gone extinct. Eurolophus javanicus, the Java stingery. Whew, scary. What happened? Let's see. The Java stingery is known only from the holotype collected in 1862 from a fish market in Jakarta, Java, Indonesia. The species' full distribution and habitat is undefined, but given a lack of records in surrounding areas, is assumed to have had a restricted range in the Java Sea. The species was small, with the only known specimen measuring 33.8 centimeters total length. Based on size, the maturity of the holotype cannot be inferred. The Java stingery was only one of only two stingery species in Indonesia, is believed to be unique within the Java region and nearby areas. Rays are heavily exploited and utilized in Indonesia, making up 60% of the national total elazabranch shark and ray catch. Intensive, generally unregulated fishing was likely the major threat, resulting in the depletion of Java stingery population, with coastal fisheries catches already declining in the 1870s. Catches on the northern coast of Java in 1940 were down to almost half the annual catch landed in the 1860s. So this is really sad, but let's see. Additionally, the northern coast of Java, particularly Jakarta Bay, is heavily industrialized, and extensive habitat loss and degradation may have also impacted the species. Coastal habitats likely utilized by the Java stingery have been replaced with aquaculture ponds since the early 1900s. The life history of the Java stingery is not known. However, Eurolophids are characterized by some of the lowest fecundities among sharks and rays. Species therefore are highly likely susceptible to population reduction and depletion. Despite extensive survey efforts since 2001, including monitoring of fish landing sites along the northern coast of Java, including Jakarta, as well as elsewhere in Indonesia, no further specimens have been recorded. Previously assessed in 2021 as critically endangered, possibly extinct, a reassessment has been undertaken for further information on threats survey effort. The probability of the combination of threats affecting the species occurred for a sufficient duration and were sufficiently severe that they caused local extinction, and the probability that threats occurred over the entire range of the species were both extremely high. This is so interesting and sad, but it is a good view of how IUCN Red List assesses species, where they will go into full detail in terms of trying to be as accurate as possible whether or not a species went extinct. So that's really, really sad. I'm kind of curious related to that, not threats, Red List category. And I'm going to go back to taxonomy. So animals, chordates, chondrichthyans. We'll do just the sharks, not the rays. Forms, torpedo forms. Okay. So none of them are extinct. I'm curious if there's any notes on possibly extinct sharks. Oh, there is one that is possibly extinct. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Very sad. What is it, though? Oh, is it 0? Nothing? Alright, so we're gonna filter for critically endangered species. It says one of these is possibly extinct. The lost shark. Okay. Interesting. So this is the one that is on the edge of extinction. We covered this species on the channel before, but this is the only shark that is potentially extinct, which is really freaky. Hence the name lost shark. But you know, Howard, to answer your comment, winghead over specialization, potentially. Let's see. That we know of, I suspect we have lost some obscure biolocalized species due to loss of environments. You might be right as far as sharks. So you could be right that we may have lost species in our lifetime and we didn't even know it, even before our lifetime. To answer your question about the winghead, I do want to go back to it because I think there are some good conservation measures in place for that species. Just to kind of highlight those. Where are we? Winghead shark, Eusphyra blashii. So, and also Go Australia, because I recall that Australia had a great program for protecting the species. But the range is very patchy, so the red is the possibly extinct area, which is extremely sad. The black is presence is uncertain, and the yellow is extant, so it does live here. So let's see. High fishing pressure. Okay. But conservation actions, here we go. In 2023, the winghead shark was listed on Appendix 2 of the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, which requires CITES parties to ensure that exports be accompanied by permits based on findings that parts are sourced from legal and sustainable fisheries. The Western and Central Pacific Fisheries Commission designated the winghead shark as a key shark species in 2010, but has yet to adopt hammerhead catch limits or retention limits. Let's see. In Malaysia, the species is fully protected under the Federal Fisheries Act of 1987. In Australia, the species likely benefited from spatial closures in the Great Barrier Reef Marine Park in East Queensland, particularly after its rezoning in 2004, although no specific data are available to support this. In Western Australia, the winghead shark likely benefits from a network of state and federal marine parks that cover a large amount of its known range, including key inshore habitats. Also in Western Australia, the winghead shark has likely benefited from a 0.8 million square kilometer spatial closure for shark fishing has been in place since 2005, and a 2018 prohibition on gillnet fishing in southern King Sound and the Fitzroy River estuary where the species occurs. Allow recovery, it is recommended that all winghead shark retention and landings be prohibited globally, at least as long as the global population is classified as critically endangered or endangered. Initiatives to prevent recapture, minimize bycatch mortality, promote safe release, and improve catch, including discard, reporting are also urgently needed, as is full implementation of additional commitments agreed through international treaties. Let's see the trend. Is it going down? Unfortunately, the trend is decreasing. But Australia does have a couple of really cool conservation measures in place, and not just Australia, but Malaysia and Australia both have conservation measures. So, to answer your question, I don't know if it's over specialization, and it might be. It's a shark that hasn't undergone fishing pressure extremely well, and I'm not sure what has really contributed to that versus other species. Part of it might be the depth range. Not the worst, but not a lot of refuge at depth, so that could be a part of it. Let's see. But because of the measures in place, I do have hope for winghead sharks. So I think there's some species we can turn around. And some sharks we have actually seen improvement. So conscious optimism. It's a long road, but there's some sharks that we have seen improvement for. Kind of speaking of that, this is really interesting to see under climate change scenarios. There's some species where you see actually quite a bit of green, some that you see quite a bit of purple. So for the green species is the Sandbar Shark of all sharks. Carcharhinus plumbeus actually seems to be able to benefit from climate change. Might lose habitat in Florida, but it's gaining a lot throughout the ocean, which is interesting. Conversely, the silver-tip shark, Carcharhinus marginatus, is losing a huge amount of area in the Indo-Pacific. So that's looking very vulnerable to climate change. The dusky shark, unfortunately, really not gaining a lot. That's actually really scary because this is already an endangered species. So very sad to see. Who else is mentioned in these charts? Here we go. So again, our Bignose Shark is doing okay. A lot of purple here. Who's in this chart? The Silky Shark. Silky Shark seems to be gaining some areas in the margins, but losing in the Indo-Pacific. So the Indo-Pacific looks like this is going to be an area that's going to be heavily impacted by climate change. The black tip shark is losing a lot of ground in the Indo-Pacific, but gaining in other parts of the sea. Interesting. Oh gosh, the blue shark really losing a lot of ground. Gaining a little bit of territory in the Pacific, but losing a lot in the Indo-Pacific. The oceanic white tip, though, seems to actually benefit. This is so interesting. Oceanic white tips actually seem to gain a lot of ocean habitat with climate change scenarios. So this is really fascinating. It's just seeing how, what's the phrase, like someone's misery is another person's fortune or something. I forget what the phrase is. I should know what this is. It's like, I forget what it is. But anyway, getting back to the Bignose Shark, looks like it's retaining most of its habitat. It's losing some pretty important habitat areas, but gaining a little bit as well. Yeah, but I would say overall it's it would be a bit of a net negative. Like overall the Bignose Shark will be able to retain a lot of its habitat, but it's not a good scenario. We don't want to see massive climate impacts on shark species. I think the last one I want to take a look at is this shark right here, and this is the small tail shark, Carcharhinus porosus. This species is losing a lot under a climate change scenario. So losing the Gulf of Mexico, the Caribbean, is pretty freaky. The black-nosed shark, this is really sad. Black-nosed shark's losing a lot of ground in the Gulf of Mexico too under a climate scenario, or a climate change scenario. Conversely, the Caribbean reef shark losing some ground in Florida and Cuba, but gaining some ground in the southern Caribbean and the Bahamas. It's kind of interesting. So, yeah, I know it's almost 11, so we'll just kind of wrap up with the conclusion. Let's see, discussion. The results of the study showed that most of the species presented a shift in their distribution in response to projected changes in climate. The suitable area for Carcharhinus sharks showed a general trend of decline in the future for most species, although the suitable area for some species is expected to increase. In general, the loss of suitable area is predominantly found around the equatorial band, the Gulf of Mexico, and the Indian Ocean. In contrast, the areas that present gains or insuitability are predominantly on the periphery of the M areas. Let's see. Ocean currents. Ocean currents have also been described as an oceanographic predictor for certain species of sharks, given their active behavior and use of the currents in search of food. A few attempts have been made to estimate the potential current or future distribution areas of Carcharhinus sharks using Maxent or other modeling approaches, in which the decrease of suitable areas has also been reported. Jones et al. From 2013 applied 3 species distribution models projected to one climate change scenario with 2 sets of variables to determine the potential impacts of commercial fish in the North Sea, finding a contraction in total suitable area for angel sharks and other lazarbegs such as rays. Predicted habitat suitability for smooth hammerheads. Another researcher in 2018 predicted habitat suitability for smooth hammerheads under current or future climate change scenarios for the time period of 2040 to 2050, indicating that suitable habitat for the species will shift to a more coastal distribution in the future. For Carcharhinus sharks, Lisma Okoa et al. Found that Carcharhinus falciformis, a silky shark, presents losses in suitable area under some climate scenarios. Our results for the silky shark showed that the maximum loss in suitable area is 10%. One researcher indicated that the more active pelagic sharks would experience greater negative physiological impacts from increasing ocean temperatures than their benthic counterparts. This could be because more active pelagic lifestyles correlate with higher metabolic rates, which are temperature dependent, compared to those of less active benthic or bathyal species. For instance, we found percentages of suitable area lost for the Atlantic sharpnose shark, an obligate ram ventilator that must move by swimming at speeds or finding a swift current in which to linger in order to continually force water through its gills to breathe. And for Carcharhinus isodon, the fine-toothed shark, which is described as an active shark. Nevertheless, the Sandbar Shark is an obligate ram ventilating apex predator that in our study presents gains in suitable area under all climate change scenarios. In contrast, we found a low percentage of loss in suitable areas presented by the sedentary species, the white tip reef shark. There's also evidence that suggests negative effects on suitable area in species that are restricted to a single habitat throughout their life cycle, such as the case of sharks strictly associated with coral reefs. Yes, agreed. This is a very, very interesting study. And did I post a link? Yes, I posted a link in the chat. I think it's definitely worth a read. This is consistent with the Caribbean reef shark, but disagrees with what we found in other scenarios for the white tip reef shark. Let's see. I'm going to type in altimus to see if there's any notes for the Bignose Shark specifically. Okay. For the species with distribution in some ocean regions, including the Mediterranean Sea, the areas lost for the silver-tip shark, Bignose shark, and dusky shark were regionalized in South Asia. This is in contrast to the sandbar shark and the white-tip reef shark, which generally presented maintained and gained areas across almost all their distributions. Similar to the previous group for the species with distribution in all ocean regions, including the Mediterranean Sea, the unsuitable areas were found in South Asia, except for the species oceanic white tip and tiger shark, which presented large maintained areas. The 6 species in this group presented gained areas in extreme north and south of respective M areas. So, gotcha. All right. So I'm going to pull up this map one more time before wrapping up. I was saying that South Asia was where the Bignose shark would lose a lot of habitat under one of the climate scenarios, and it looks like this area was also where a lot of other sharks would lose habitat as well. So, but the shift in gaining habitat in other parts of the world is fascinating. So I think the study is definitely worth further reading. At your own leisure, because it is 11 o'clock now. So, but I think with that we will wrap up tonight's stream on the Bignose Shark, where I think we learned a lot. There we go. I'm going to end on this image. But thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate joining me tonight for more of a classic shark study party, because this was definitely... I thought there was going to be more video with the species, but it makes sense that because Bignose sharks spend their time in deeper water, they're not really encountered that often. But I appreciate that we learned a lot more about it, including the fact that it's a deep water species that comes up to the surface at night and then dives back down during the daytime. But I really like that it is a part of a very important study on how sharks adapt to climate change or may adapt to climate change in the future, and how shifting ocean temperatures will affect multiple variables and may help shark species gain range or gain habitat, but more so would hurt a lot of shark species, and it's not a good trade-off at the end of the day. But I appreciate you watching, and I'm really excited for the rough-skin spur dog next week, Serigalius asper, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Until then, I hope you have a great week. Thanks for joining, Howard, and I hope you have another awesome weekend. I'm looking forward to your next piece of art, and thank you so much for the comments on my dogfish. So I'm excited that we're going to cover a different dogfish next week. It's going to be super fun. But until then, take care, and thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next week for the rough skin spur dog. Have a good night.